"John! John!" Lily yelled, slapping me awake. I flailed slightly and glanced around in confusion, utterly surprised that I had actually managed to get some sleep. The scene from last night had been playing on repeat in my head like a bad dream, and despite how much I thought about it, I couldn't convince myself that any of it had been real or unreal. What? I stammered before sitting upright and grabbing Lily's arms as she continued to hit me. Jesus, what? What do you mean, what? She spoke. School, perhaps? It's 7 o'clock, you moron. You're going to make us both late. I groaned loudly, letting go of her and rubbing my eyes before scrunching back under the covers. Yeah, don't think I'm going today, I grumbled. Take the bus or something. The bus already left, she hissed, her face red. And like hell you're not going to school. I know you have that test today. You're too much of a nerd to miss that. I didn't say anything, but her next words woke me up in a flash. You were right, she said slowly. About Marcus. The police released a report this morning. He marks victim number 4. Then we got a call saying some detectives may swing by to ask us about him, as we were his last known contact. I jolted up in bed. When are they coming? I stammered, failing to sound nonchalant as I pulled the covers from myself. Sometime this afternoon, I think, she spoke, climbing off the bed and grabbing her backpack. I'm not sure, though. It doesn't matter, let's just go. Sarah's blinding eyes dug into my flesh. Jesus, Max stammered. What are the chances? Lily thinks I'm next, I half laughed. This is all beginning to hit a little close to home. I feel foolish asking this, Sarah spoke, visibly hiding her discomfort. But, John, just tell me you had nothing to do with this. Marcus's death? I asked, flabbergasted. Of course not. I don't need to tell you that. Jesus Christ, you think I'm the serial killer or something? No, she breathed. Obviously not. You just have to realize that this is awfully strange timing. And I'm sure that's all it is, but still weird, you know? Tell me about it, I sighed before suddenly picking up my worried tone. Lily said the police were going to show up at some point. If you don't think I'm the killer, they definitely will if they connect me to the anonymous threats I sent him. This just got way out of hand. Sarah's eyes went wide as if she hadn't even considered this. Wait, she cried. John, you have to tell them right now before they figure it out on their own. I can't, I cried. Sarah, I was pretending to be the killer for Christ's sake. Whether they find it out or I tell them makes no difference at this point. I've incriminated myself beyond belief. We would vouch for you, dude, Max spoke up. I agree that it's better to tell them now than have them figure it out. They've got to give you the benefit of the doubt, and since you're truly innocent, that has to count for something. You shouldn't have anything to be worried about. I saw the doubt flash in his eyes with his last words. All we can know for sure, Sarah spoke, is that this will only get worse if we wait. We have to go down to the city station right now. No, I cried, trying to keep my composure as I stammered. I was insanely careful not to leave any traces back to me. What if they don't make the connection? Maybe I did a good enough job where admitting it would be more trouble than it's worth. You don't really think that, Sarah nervously spoke. You can't possibly be that confident. I know you. You're not that stupid. You have to tell them right now. Just be glad that you weren't anywhere near Marcus during his murder. So long as you can prove that, you can't possibly be considered as a suspect. I coughed, my stomach dropping. Yeah, I queasily smiled. You guys are right. I'll go down to the station and show them everything I have. I'll call you guys if I need to. We're coming with you, Max spoke. John, are you crazy? You need all the credibility you can get. Don't go walking in there alone. My teeth clenched behind pursed lips. My mind began reeling, trying to think up excuses to get out of this without seeming suspicious. Just as I began to stammer out muddled words, however, a voice rang out from the hallway. John, it called, light footsteps rounding the corner as Lily burst into the room, her black hair highlighting her vibrating steel-gray eyes. Her tone lowered to a worrying degree as she glanced at my friends before gesturing to me and saying, Mom needs us home. Okay, of course, I stammered, silently praising the air at this convenient distraction. What's up? She waited until we were out in the hallway before turning to me and quietly stammering out, The police are there, John. I twitched. Oh. Really? I coughed, feeling my limbs growing distant. About Marcus's murder? Someone broke in, John, she spoke, her skin revealing itself to be deathly pale. Wait, what? I cried in a hushed whisper. When? Just today while we were at school? In broad daylight? My heart froze. While Mom was home? Lily nodded. The police say she unwittingly let the assailant in. Is she okay? I cried. Did they catch the culprit? They don't know who did it, she stammered. Mom wasn't physically hurt, but she's not doing so hot. She's not at the house anymore. The police say she's delirious. The name she gave, the name of the assailant, was Sarah. Sarah? I stammered. Sarah Duffy? But I was just talking to her. She's right here in that room. That's impossible, Lily continued. I know. They called the school and confirmed that she never left. She can't be the culprit, hence the delirious claim. We need to get back right now. I nodded, barely giving Max and Sarah a quick apologetic wave before dashing out the doors with Lily. Anything appear to be missing? One of the officers asked Lily and I, gesturing to our living room, a scene that made my stomach heave in dread. The space was torn apart, VHSs and DVD tapes lying scattered across the room. One of the small bookshelves was lying on its side, the TV shattered on the floor, crystalline glass fragments sprinkling the carpet like water. I stammered for several seconds before admitting that everything seemed to still be present, if a little disorganized and out of place. Lily agreed after some pause. The reason we arrived, the officer continued, bending down to become eye level with Lily and I, was to inquire as to the recent actions of Marcus White. It wasn't until we heard distressed calls from within the house that we forced the door open to find your mother in a state of imagined paralysis on the floor. Imagined, I stammered, unable to keep my tone from showing irritation at the officer's nonchalant approach to the whole situation. What does that mean, imagined? She had full sensational feeling of her limbs, the officer continued, beginning to walk instantly after being helped to her feet. Essentially, it was all in her head. I stayed silent, so many questions rushing through my head that I wasn't sure where to start. As I believe you are aware, the officer continued, your mother, in her panicked state, claimed that before she passed out, she faintly recalled letting in your friend Sarah Duffy, an individual who was present with you throughout the entire school day, correct? That is correct, I stammered. Our mother passed out? Where exactly is she now? Down at Refanock Hospital in the city, the officer replied. She was being questioned as to the events that transpired here. She seemed to recall very little and was in a weakened cognitive state of mind despite, again, no drugs being found in her system. He stooped even lower, grimacing out a sympathetic smile as his eyes softly looked between us. Now, he continued, I'm sure all of this is quite a lot for you two to handle, and this may be hard to hear, but if nothing is missing from your household, we have reason to believe that no assailant ever entered the house. This event may all be the product of a delusion. You're saying you think our mom trashed our own house? I continued. Why would she ever do that? That is the question we're trying to answer, the officer spoke softly. If you have any information to help us, we would love to know, but I'm sure this is all a bit much, so we'll leave further questioning for a later date. If you would like to visit your mother, you can either come in a squad car with me, or you can follow me in your own car. Lily and my eyes met. At the mention of Marcus's death, she had gone deathly pale, and I watched her hands twitch lightly by her side in anger as she looked at the officer, and then to me. Let's go in your car, she spoke to me coldly. I've had enough of these people. My eyes widened, my arms rushing to lightly grab her shoulders as I spoke in exasperation. Lily, Jesus, whoa, that's no way to talk to an officer. I turned to the man who bore a similar expression and frantically apologized. I'm so sorry, I cried. She's going through a lot. We all are. I'll follow you in my car, if that's okay with you. Thank you so much for understanding. He nodded a soft, understanding nod and adjusted his squad hat before standing up and gesturing to several other men in the room. They acknowledged him and we all walked out of the house. I'm just so sick of it, Lily hissed venomously, her hands twitching at her sleeves. Lily, I tried to calm her. What has gotten into you? They're just doing their job. They do nothing, she cried, her steely eyes flashing. For 2 months after the restraining order, they did nothing, didn't lift a finger to help her. And now that they're finally interested in her, it's because they think she's insane. How dare they? You think I'm not mad about that too? I spoke, trying to keep my eyes on the road between glances at her. Lily, of course it's frustrating, and the way they're handling this situation is unfair to say the least, but you can't act like that around them. They can't even find a serial killer who kills right under their noses, she snapped. I've had it with this town, with them, with everything. How many more people are going to get hurt while they do nothing? My hands gripped the wheel lightly. My gaze slowly drifted to Lily, focusing on the way her spindly limbs contracted with anger. Her steely, impossibly colorless eyes radiated a sort of sickness that made them hard to focus on, so dull that she rarely looked to have pupils at all, just reflective gray spheres. My eyes were much the same, but she was often very self-conscious and embarrassed of the way she knew this trait of hers often made people uncomfortable. She stared out the window now, watching our small town fade into the distance as we passed the bridge connecting us to civilization. Do you think they have a motive? I spoke out after some time, my voice lying stagnant in the air. Her gaze remained fixed. The serial killer, I mean, I continued slowly. What if we're only seeing part of the picture, you know? If we knew the killer's motivation, it might help. Her eyes flicked to me from within sunken sockets, eroding into something indiscernible as her mouth moved slowly. What do you mean? She spoke. The reason the police are having such trouble is because there doesn't seem to be a trend, right? Kinda, I stammered. They're all men, and most of them are older, but other than that, the victims appear largely random. Plus, with no murder weapon identified either, I imagine finding the killer is impossible, let alone finding a motive. So, what are you saying then? She continued, watching me closely. Why a motive, anyway? Why do you care what they think? They don't need a reason to kill. Sometimes people just act. No, they don't, I spoke, not looking away from the road. there is always a reason. It's just not always easily understood by others. John? Lily spoke, narrowing her eyes slightly in confusion. What are you going on about? So, sure, they probably have a reason, and maybe it would help the police catch them, but why does it matter? It's not like we can do anything about that. The police car pulled into the parking lot, and I followed. Maybe we can, I continued softly, putting the car into park. If you're right and the police are finding nothing, maybe it's time for us to try. Her eyes widened, her face contorting in fearful confusion. What? She stammered. John, what the hell is all of this suddenly? Of course we can't do that. What could we possibly find that the police couldn't? Why are you suddenly so interested in the killer? You've been pretending to not care this whole time. I glanced out the window, seeing the officer open his door and gesture us outside. I choked on my words, thoughts and paranoia arcing so fast through my mind that my resulting speech came out in a chilling sludge. I think they suspect me. Lily's skin flashed pale. I cringed, ice squirming into my heart as I fumbled to fix my last words, instead spilling out everything. If the true killer isn't found soon, they may settle for me. I didn't listen to the radio scanner to learn about Marcus's death. I was there. I was threatening Marcus, pretending to be the killer to get him away from our mom. If they trace my threats back to me, they'll likely have enough evidence to falsely convict me. The officer beckoned again, beginning to walk towards our car. I threw open my door before Lily could respond and staggered awkwardly onto the pavement, giving him a wave. Lily stopped beside me after some time and began walking towards the hospital with me, saying nothing. The officer walked just in front of us, occasionally responding to faint chatter on his radio. He spoke briefly to one of the women at the front desk before nodding at us and continuing forwards. Our mom looked like she belonged there, in the hospital bed. The image made my throat clench slightly. Her skin was pale, her lids heavy, and her eyes sunken and hollow. Despite this, however, her pulse was fine, her breathing utterly normal, and, as the officer explained to me just before we entered, she had absolutely no detectable physical health complications. I hardly believed this in looking at her now, however. Her eyes were dull and unfocused as Lily and I slowly approached her, fully aware that the officer stood in the doorway, watching our interaction. Hey, how are you doing? I spoke wordily, somehow feeling the need to add the tagline. It's Lily and John. Her breathing slowly increased, her eyes meeting mine before flicking to Lily. She didn't say anything. Mom? I continued softly, looking to Lily nervously. Please, you alright? We probably can't stay long. I just want you to know that you don't have to worry about anything. Lily and I will keep up the house. I'm sure the police notified your work. If not, I'll let them know what's going on. Lily softly nodded, continuing. Please, just get better. Don't worry about us. Everything will be fine. What matters is that... Our mom coughed. My heart stopped. Kids, the officer suddenly spoke, his tone somehow instantly laced with urgency. Unfortunately, I've got another call to attend to. I know you just got here, but this has to be it for today. Another call? I spoke, standing upright and facing him. About what? Shouldn't say, he responded, looking over his shoulder and gesturing. Another missing person, Lily spoke, standing upright as well. I heard your radio. A 1057. That's code for a missing person, right? Yes, the officer admitted in passing as he ushered us out. That is correct. I trust you know how to get home from here? I nodded, still feeling sick from what I had just seen. The killer, Lily pushed further. Do you think it's related? We can't be sure, the officer brushed her question away, walking beside us as he subtly forced us out of the hospital. What about us? Lily spoke, causing my legs to lock up. Do you think our recent incident is at all related? Our mother or us? Related to the serial killer, I mean. The officer, too, grew slightly less confident in his steps as his face filled with genuine confusion. No, he spoke, causing relief to flood me. At this point in time, I hardly think this case bears any relation to the serial killings. You and your brother are fine. Marcus was known for harassing your household. We merely needed to retrieve recordings of the messages he left to your house prior to his death. He was delirious, I spouted out before I could stop myself. In the messages, he said he couldn't wait to meet my mother, even though she hadn't spoken to him in over a week. When you review the recordings, just know that none of us knew what he was talking about. Our mother was very scared by them. The officer's eyebrows raised, his gaze falling on me. That is interesting, he spoke, now standing painfully still in the parking lot beside his police cruiser. Hopefully, we will be able to get your mother to confirm that on record in the coming week. Until then, you two stay inside and stay safe. Marcus's relation to your family was not intimate, and the killer does not seem to be, nor ever has, targeted families, so there is absolutely no reason to believe your lives are in danger. He unlocked his car, opening the door before handing me a card and continuing with sincerity. That being said, if you two ever feel at all uncomfortable in any way, please call this number and we will dispatch a team of 2 officers to keep watch and monitor your situation for a day or two to assess any threats. This should only be used if you have serious reason to believe your lives are in danger, but understand that it is an option. I thanked him, still feeling slightly sick to my stomach, and Lily gave him a nod. It wasn't long before he drove away in his cruiser and I was left with only Lily's wide eyes. She didn't say anything. Neither of us spoke a word until we crossed the bridge into our small town. The water wheel looked as mangled as ever, creaking and groaning as its spindly, skeleton-like spokes lay stagnant in the rushing water. She's not okay. Lily's words finally crawled forth. I couldn't do anything but nod softly. It was late twilight now, the sun quickly disappearing below the surrounding hills. I'm scared, John, she continued. These words finally caused me to snap from the fog that had been gathered in my mind. I slowed the car down, taking a deep breath and scanning the windswept plains for a second or two before looking at her and speaking out. I don't think anyone would blame you for that, I spoke softly, my hands clenching at the wheel. But Mom's been through worse. We've been through worse. We'll get through this. Through everything. If we stick this out, see it through to the end, something tells me things may finally go our way. Just one last fight to go. This one might be too big for us, she whispered. My eyes widened, her sudden hopelessness knocking my feet out from under me. I stammered, my mouth numb. Lily, I coughed. Don't say that. Mom is just a little stunned by the events of today, and my foolish actions mean I'll likely have to work a little harder to prove my innocence. But it's all fine. I'm so sorry I put all of this on you. I shouldn't have told you about seeing Marcus that night. This is my fight, my mistake. All of it. Don't you say that we can't do this. I'll fix this. I can fix this. We're next, John, she whispered. I can tell you've already figured it out. You can't hide it. I swallowed hard, my voice again rushing forwards to try and interject. Lily, I cried. We'll be fine. What are you? How can that policeman think there's no connection between Marcus and the break-in? She spoke. How can they be so blind as to not see what's happening here? I pulled the car into the driveway, the house looking horribly vacant and dark, an untamed field of weeds and grass extending behind it until it disappeared into utter blackness. The sounds of the night were muffled by the car we sat in, now sounding distant and haunting. Lily, I spoke as calmly as I could muster. If you truly feel that way, let's call the number. We shouldn't have a second thought about it. If it will make you feel safer, I won't hesitate for a single damn second. Would you like me to call them? The recesses of my mind were still damp, dark and sticky with a black sludge of distrust I couldn't quite dissolve. Until Lily spoke her next words. Yes, please, she whispered. My gaze widened instantly, my skin crawling with subsurface terror. Lily wasn't the killer. I had been insane to ever even consider the possibility. Her incomprehensible fear in this instant proved that to me. The way she checked out into the darkness surrounding us, the way she was trying to piece together the facts, same as me. This was still just my sister. She was terrified. She was worried, sick. And if she wasn't the killer, someone else was. And they were coming after us next. The recent clues all pointed to it, despite what the bulk of the evidence suggested. The killer had never targeted a family before, never gone outside the city, but the break-in, our mother's current condition. I couldn't pretend that this wasn't happening. When our mom had coughed in the hospital, the reason I had been so terrified was because I watched a dark spray erupt from her mouth. Ropey and thick, it seemed more like saliva than anything, something that wouldn't necessarily have seemed out of place if I hadn't watched Marcus die from it not but a day ago. This was real, this was my fault, and we were in grave danger. You're going to stay the night in Chloe's house, I stated firmly. Don't tell anyone else where you are, and tell her family just what you need to. Her widening eyes stared at me as I threw the car into drive and pulled out of the driveway. I'm going to call the number and tell the police that you're at the house, I continued, reaching close to 80 miles per hour as the black crops rushed past like mangled corpses. I'm going back to the hospital, I continued. I'm going to stay there with Mom until the morning. Call me if you need anything. Otherwise, just please don't worry about anything. Her pale hands nervously clawed at the sides of the car as I tore down the road. She looked to be trying to speak, to protest, but the words caught in her throat. Listen, Lily, I continued, screeching into Chloe's driveway and reaching their front door. I'm so sorry about everything, but I can handle this. Everything will be fine. I just need to know that you're safe. This is all I can think of at the moment. She was absolutely frozen, nothing but a nervous twitch flickering across her face. I opened my own door, walking around to her side and slowly opening hers, helping her out onto her shaking feet as her eyes looked at nothing in particular. I hugged her tightly, grabbing her hand and quickly leading her to the front door, knocking loudly several times. Nearly a minute passed before a figure slowly opened the door. It was Chloe's mother, her annoyance instantly turning to concern as she saw that it was us to knock so late at night. Hello, Mrs. Dieter, I spoke, straining to keep my voice level and slow. Our mother is currently in the hospital. Nothing serious, but our house was just broken into today. Lily is extremely shaken up. Would it be too much to ask for her to stay here for the night? Mrs. Dieter's eyes went as wide as saucers, horror arcing through them like a wildfire. My goodness, she exclaimed, stammering over her next words. That's fine, yes, of course. This all just happened today? Is your mother alright? Yes, I spoke, glancing at my car behind me. She's doing great, just a little shaken up as well. I'm actually going to be with her now, which is why I have to run. Lily has my number if anything comes up. Are you okay with this? Can I leave her with you and your family for a bit? I should be back early tomorrow morning, as soon as possible. Mrs. Dieter nodded yes hastily, nothing but terror continuing to spread through her face. Thank you so incredibly much, I spoke, giving Lily one last hug before dashing off to my car, watching Mrs. Dieter usher Lily inside as I pulled out of the driveway and dialed the number. Hello everybody! So, you enjoying the story? I don't know, let me know if you want to keep going. I mean, this one's a long one. We're only getting started. This is like, everything you're listening to now is like, almost like a setup for the actual story. I don't know. I'm very excited about this one. I'm enjoying writing it for sure. So let me know if you're enjoying listening to it. Also, I'm so excited. 10,000 subscribers coming up soonish. Maybe, I don't know. Not very soon, but maybe kind of soon. So I figured I would just go ahead and start asking now if you guys had anything in mind that you wanted me to do for that kind of milestone. Because I'd love to do something. I mean, I feel like some sort of like Q&A would be the general thing that would usually happen. And I think I would like to do that, but if you guys had anything else in mind, feel free to let me know in the comments. I am open to all kinds of ideas, so just throw them out there. Anyway, part 3 coming up soon. Design Season 3 coming up also kinda soon. The Design spin-off, Killer AU, coming up whenever I get around to it. There's a lot of stuff going on. Okay. Anyway, well, hope you're looking forward to the next part of this series, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.